Welcome to another edition of the Here We Go podcast. I am your host, Trent Ging. We have a guest with us once again. Welcome back, Colin Phillips. How are you doing today?
Hey, good man. How's it going with you?
It's going good. It's going good. We have a pretty action-packed show for everybody today. We're going to be talking a little bit about the offense, what we expect from them. Got quite the debate coming up after that. A couple players is a hot topic. We're going to finish up with some stuff about training camp. Let's just dive into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So first, before we get into the offense, did you see the video today of Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf working out?
I did. Yes, it was. I saw a lot of the comments and whatnot. I mean, it was definitely something to just sit and read all the comments and whatnot. I mean, granted, I don't think there's a chance we'd get DK Metcalf, but that'd be sweet, man. I mean, wow, that'd be definitely something. I've always been a big DK fan since his days at Ole Miss. I think he was draft class of 2019, right? Same as like McLaurin and all them. But anyway, yeah, I saw the video. Russ looked good. He did. So
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yep. I think it's hilarious every time you see something like that because they have to be close friends. They played together for a long time, and I don't read anything more into this, but the speculation is going to start flying here before long. So people are going to be talking about Russ is going to try to get him to talk to his agent about getting out of there, but I don't see it happening either. There's nothing even indicate he's even on the table. So anyway, I thought that was kind of an interesting little thing that I saw earlier today. So let's get into the offense. Lots of changes, right? Whole new quarterback room, basically a whole new coaching staff outside of three coaches: the tight end coach, the offensive line
Pat
coach,
Meyer.
and
Yeah.
Sullivan's still there, and I guess Eddie Faulkner's still there too.
Faulkner. So I think we have 4 coming back.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tom Arth, and then obviously Art Smith. Tom Arth is the quarterbacks coach, the new quarterbacks coach, correct? And then the new receiver, is that Zach Azani, the new receivers coach?
Zach Azani.
From yeah. So yeah, those are the new 3 newcomers. Yeah, I mean it was definitely time for a quarterback coach change, 100%. Definitely time for a receivers coach change, I think, as well. Just with the fact that I don't know. What do you think about the receiving coach? Well, I mean, I guess, do you think it was time for it, or?
Yeah, I do. I mean, he's limited on some of the things he's able to do, right? But just some of the lack of motivation it seemed like Deontay Johnson had, and the attitude that you saw from him, and quitting on plays, and George Pickens not blocking at times, and to me, you needed an attitude adjustment on that coaching staff to get these guys going, and obviously Deontay shipped out of town, but I mean, we were one of the worst offenses in the league last year. So, I mean, I don't know how much blame you put on a guy like Matt Canada, how much you put on the players. Is it a combination of both? What was your feelings as you were kind of watching the end of the last season?
Yeah, I mean, since 2021 when Canada came in, we've been, bottom 5 every single year in regards to offensive production, whether that be yards, scoring, red zone, anything, the whole 9 yards. We've been absolutely abysmal. And yeah, I blame Canada 96%. Now I'll be nice, 90% of it. Obviously, Mitch Trubisky was absolutely egregious. He was awful in every single way. I mean, I guess realistically looking back on Kenny Pickett's career with the Steelers, Canada didn't really have much to work with in regards to quarterbacks, right? 2021, he had the corpse of Ben. We made the playoffs, got smoked by KC in the wild card. Shocker. And with 22 with 22 and 23 actually with Kenny, Mitch, and Mason at quarterback, he didn't have anything to work with. But I do think there was a lot of ways that, Canada could have been a lot better. I mean, you saw Kenny Pickett's very first game against Cincinnati, week 13 or 11 or something like that. The second Canada was gone, Kenny Pickett's all of a sudden grades out the third best quarterback in pro football for that week. Pat Freiermuth all of a sudden has his breakout game of the season. Najee Harris has 15 carries for 99 yards and a score. Warren plays well. Like I said, Freiermuth, Pickens, Deontay, everybody got involved. Boy, it would have been sweet if Deontay didn't drop that touchdown pass in the first or second quarter, whatever it might have been, which, led to a fumble and turn. But, anyway, with that being said, it was pretty clear with how the offensive group played from 2023 previous with Canada and post Canada. It was pretty clear that Canada was definitely the main issue.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty obvious. His scheme was more in line with high school football than the NFL, right? I mean, it was not good.
Yeah.
There was not a lot, and there was not really. It didn't seem there was a game plan of like I'm running this play to set up this play later. None of that stuff was taking effect, and
Nope.
I was looking here. The Steelers' offensive, as far as like points production, we were 28th in the NFL when we went 10-7. I mean, that says the world about where that offense was. You're one of the worst scoring teams in the league. It's honestly, it's kind of a miracle we finished at 10-7. And if it wasn't for so many backup quarterbacks, I don't know where we would have finished. So clearly one of the worst teams in the league. But now we're moving on from that. We're moving into the Arthur Smith era. A lot of new faces on offense this year. What are your thoughts on some of the positional groups? Where do you want to start with that?
For me personally, I would like to start probably. I mean, you're the host. I mean, what do you think? I could talk forever about any of the positions. So,
I tell you what, I like to go with inside out. So let's go ahead and start with the big boys up front.
Great.
What are your thoughts?
I was thinking the same thing.
Some of the big boys. We obviously got 2 new additions in the rookie class. I think both are going to be in line for a starting position. What are your thoughts about possibly Dan Moore finally being supplanted as the left tackle, and how the new additions are going to kind of fit?
Yeah, I mean, so I said this on Twitter. I replied to someone. You're talking Foutanu, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I responded to a guy earlier this week about that. And, I think we mentioned it just a little bit on the podcast on Sunday. We traded up for Broderick Jones in the first round of last year. We went from 17 to 14 to go get him. Great call. I was really thrilled with it. I wanted him since day 0 of the draft process. So, I mean, with that, I mean, you have your left tackle already, and then we drafted Foutanu at 20 this year. Great value pick, etc. I would be happy with Foutanu at left tackle, to be honest with you. I think him and Dan Moore should battle it out. I mean, has Dan Moore played a single snap for the Steelers since he's been here since 2021. So in those 3 seasons, he's not played a single snap at right tackle. So why exactly are we having Foutanu and Dan Moore battle it out at right tackle when Broderick did a pretty darn good job last year on the right side? I know we traded up for him, and it's kind of like pointless really to trade up for a right tackle in the first round. But, I mean, we had a great value pick this year. And, again, our swing tackle, if you will, our backup, hasn't played a single snap at right tackle. So, for me, I say just keep Broderick on the right side and have them battle it out for left tackle eventually. I mean, day 1, it should be Foutanu on the left side.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because they did trade up and Broderick Jones probably should have started at left tackle last year ahead of Dan Moore. But then the whole saga with Jukes kind of went down, and clearly there was a grudge there from Tomlin that dude was never seeing the field again as long as the season was going on. So, and he played fine. You're right. He played pretty well on the right side. He had some rough games, but I don't know if it's just because they feel like Fautanu he's going to adjust better to the right side. And I think there is more upside with Broderick Jones on the left. I mean, we've seen so much production out of Fautanu in the college ranks that you probably know a lot about who he is. Where Broderick he's actually younger, which people forget about. He's actually a year younger than Troy Fautanu, and I think there's more upside with him on the left side because of his length. So I'm wondering if that's maybe what the team's looking at. But nevertheless, I think this is the year you finally see Dan Moore take a back seat, and you got two new tackles finally that are going to be your bookends for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm really happy that we're going to finally see here where we don't have Dan Moore penciled in at left tackle. 3 years of terrible, straight up 3 years of terrible. He actually, like, looking at it, like the film and like the grading and whatnot, he actually wasn't a horrible run blocker. But you need your left
Yeah.
tackle to be a pass blocker. You do. Like let's not beat around the bush here. Your left tackle needs to be your best pass protector on your offensive line. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm agreeing with you there with the fact that, I mean, Broderick does have the better upside with, the length and a little bit better. Actually, Troy Fautanu actually has pretty long arms. Obviously, he's only
He
like
does.
6'3.5", 6'3 and 3/4, which is a relatively shorter in stature left tackle. With Broderick being like 6'4.5", almost 6'5". But yeah, I mean, Broderick probably does have the better upside on the left side, and I think Fautanu, maybe they're thinking the right tackle for a rookie is probably the better one to kind of ease into from college to pros. Probably that's probably their thought process behind it, which I can agree with. And like you said, it's at this point, as long as we have two tackles for our future, I don't care what side they're on. I mean,
No.
as long as we can have two good tackles for our future, it doesn't matter what side each of them play on.
So the battle that everyone's going to be watching throughout camp, I'm sure, is going to be who's going to be the center, right? I mean, obviously Herbig's got this pole position on this. Um, how quickly do you think this becomes Zach Frazier's job?
I mean, realistically speaking, putting bias aside, maybe a preseason game. I mean, we'll see very quickly, number one, how good Zach Frazier really is, but number two, how much better he is than Nick Herbig. Again, we'll see that very quickly. I think it's Frazier's job. I think, both of our first two picks in the draft this year are going to be day one starters. Granted, actually, all the first three picks, because Roman Wilson will be a day one starter for sure, whether it be, wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3. But yeah, I mean, like you said, Herbig does have the pole position as we speak. It won't take Frazier long. Maybe a week of camp, maybe one preseason game. Who knows? But
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't know that we make it to preseason before Zach Frazier's got this job. I think as long as he can handle the snapping duties, and he's a guy who plays with great leverage. So I think he's going to win that job pretty quickly. I don't think that one's going to be much of a battle, so to speak. Um, and then our guards, obviously, we have two returning guards right now. Both Isaac Seumalo's, he's a beast. He had some issues getting banged up down the stretch last year, but despite that, he still played very well. And James Daniels has probably been the most consistent guy on this offensive line since he's
oh
gotten
yeah,
to Pittsburgh.
oh yeah.
So I think we're pretty set there at those two positions. And it's kind of nice that you'll have two guys in between all these young guys that can kind of help guide some of them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's really no I mean, not much to say there. They're both returning. They were our two best linemen last year. I expect about the same this year as well. Both been studs. I think James Daniels and Broderick Jones had a really rock solid connection, if you will. Both like right guard, right tackle kind of connection there. I thought they meshed pretty well together. So if Broderick does stay on the right side, it's another exciting thing to look forward to this year. But yeah, not much to say.
yeah. So let's go to the tight end room. So they're the next guys on the end of that line. What
Yeah.
are you expecting out of Pat Fryermuth this year?
Well, I mean, he's going to be pretty clearly our second option in the passing game. At this point, it's one of those things with Fryermuth. I question his health more than I question his ability. Okay. It seems like he's always banged up with something. Feels like he's always like, Wednesday practice report, Fryermuth questionable. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always like that. But I mean, like I said earlier, we saw him in the Bengals game of last year, the first Bengals game. He played excellent. I mean, he's got very reliable hands. He had a really rock solid rookie season. He's not a very good blocker. Well, not a great blocker. He can improve that. Um, Obviously, he doesn't have a lot of ability for running after the catch, like really making these things happen in the open field. But as long as we got a reliable target with hands on as our tight end, I'm happy. As long as he can stay in that top 12, 10, 15-ish range, I'm happy. But yeah, I expect him to be our most productive guy, not named Pickens. So
Yeah. I think that's pretty clearly going to be the idea going into this thing is he's going to
yeah,
be the number two guy, unless they do
correct.
make a deal for wide receiver, which we can get into that once we get to that position. But I think right now, when you're looking at this, he's going to be the guy who gets the second most targets on this team.
Hmm.
And he could honestly, if Pickens is going to get doubled as much as we expect him to, and he can't find ways to beat that, you could probably make an argument that Freiermuth ends up leading your team in targets, which is kind of scary because you don't want your tight end to do that. But um, I'm intrigued by the fact that they're talking about him being athletic enough to move and be more of a move tight end. I don't know that I necessarily see that from him. Um, to me, he's going to be more of like what Juju Smith Schuster was for us, like a
Yeah.
possession type of receiver who's going to try to fight through some tough yardage to pick up some first downs. Like you said, very reliable hands. Um, he doesn't drop much. I mean, he doesn't miss very many balls when they hit his hands. So I don't know. There's a lot of people making the argument that he's not going to be this like playmaking type of tight end, but does he need to be? Like, I don't know if he needs to be a playmaker. What do you think?
I mean, I don't really know if he really needs to be that crazy of like a run after catch, make, crazy splash plays kind of guy. I really actually like how you compared him to Juju, like kind of 2020 Juju, where it's like, fight, like, quick throws, fighting for yards type stuff, get a short first down, whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it is very possible, to your point, that he could lead the team in targets. I mean, he had 94 targets or 92. I know he had over 90, not last year because he missed like, I think he missed 5 games last year. But, in 2022, he had over 90 targets. I could absolutely see that again here. Another 94, 95 target season for him, which I'm really okay with. I mean, he's got really reliable hands. Um, sometimes it's not all that bad, especially in a run first offense for your tight end to be, one of your top guys. I mean, look at Kansas City, look at Baltimore with Andrews. San Fran, the ball's kind of spread everywhere. That'd be a bad example because
Yeah,
Ayuk and Debo get their fair share. McCaffrey's
yeah,
obviously the best running back in the world, but there are some teams with some success who have had a tight end be a significant factor for them. So
yeah. Darnell Washington now going into year two. He's a guy that I mean, the tight end position is very difficult for a rookie. There's just so much you're asked to do with the blocking assignments and learning that, and as well as he was never a polished like receiver anyway. I didn't think anybody thought he was going to come in here and set the world on fire with his receiving numbers, but I mean, 7 catches for like 129 yards. What are you expecting out of him this coming season going into year two?
So Darnell is one of those guys. I mean, he had 34 catches his entire collegiate career. He's obviously a monster of a man. I mean, he's what, 6'8", 270, something like that. 6'7" maybe, but yeah, he's a monster of a man. Like you said, it's a very hard position as a rookie to learn. Tight end is. But yeah, I mean, I expect a decent jump from him. There's obviously those jokes around Arthur Smith where it's like, Pat Freiermuth to do nothing all year, but we'll tell you right now, Darnell and Cam Hayward are going to have some serious production. But yeah, I mean, I expect Darnell to have definitely a bigger year than last year, a more significant year. Probably going to run a ton of 12 personnel because, I mean, we really don't have a wide receiver 2 set in stone yet.
No.
So yeah, a lot of 12 personnel. I think Darnell will get a decent number of snaps. It's the same thing with him. I mean, with that frame, is he going to be able to stay healthy? And is he going to be able to, we know he has a lot of power. So can he use that and actually become an effective blocker in 12 personnel?
Yeah, I did a tight end group solo in the podcast, and
Yeah.
I took a shot at like his cap numbers of what I expect his like max numbers to look like, and I put it
Mhm.
I think at 20 catches, 250 and 3 touchdowns, which I'm
Yeah, I think
somewhere
you're
in.
about yeah, I think you're about like 25, 250 and 3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, and I just because of
Um,
exactly what you said earlier with Freiermuth, sometimes you may expect him to miss a game and a half. And that's where like I was coming up with that catch total is because I don't think he's going to be super involved. But if he becomes the main guy for a game or a game and a half, you're going to see those target share numbers go up.
yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you with Darnell's max numbers. I couldn't see anything more than about 25. Maybe, and really nothing more than 250, 300, and he'll get a few touchdowns probably. But yeah.
So let's get into obviously there's the huge hole at wide receiver too. So what do you think about the current state of this wide receiver room? How are you feeling?
PFF, put us down as the number 2 biggest hole in the league. Our wide receiver 2 hole being the second biggest hole in the league. That is incredibly significant. I can't remember the last time, and me as a fan for my 20 years of life, or really any time where we've had this big of a hole at the wide receiver position. I would love to see us make a move. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Ayuk's off the table. Obviously, DK's that was never even a conversation anyway.
No.
I think we'll probably end up sticking with the exact same group of guys we have now, but I'm not confident with that group. Do we know how well Roman Wilson's going to be as a rookie this year? No. We know what he can do. We know what he's capable of. Obviously, we know George Pickens is capable of a lot of really big, incredible things. But the thing is with Pickens, man, I mean, there's a lot that still needs to be done for him to become a bona fide number 1 wide receiver. His route tree is very limited. He's a very mental player, makes a lot of stupid mental mistakes. He needs to polish up, again, his route running. It's not just his route tree, but his ability to run the actual routes really needs to be polished there. And you're right, he's going to see a lot of double teams. He's going to see a lot of cover 2 clouds where someone's jamming him off the line, and you're going to get that team's best safety over top there 100% of the time. I mean, that's just going to be the case with Pickens. So there's a lot of things he needs to do to be a bona fide number 1. It was nice having Deontay, who had a giant route tree, could run any route in the book in a very effective way. We need that out of Pickens. We need it bad. I mean, I think it's a failure of a season for him specifically if he doesn't go for 1,500. I mean, considering the best option after him is Roman Wilson, he's got to go for 75, 80, 1,500, and at least 8 to 10 touchdowns. I need to see that out of him. But other than that, like I said, I just went over Roman Wilson. Calvin Austin's just a gadget guy. If we're really being honest, he's really just a gadget guy. I mean, he could be the outside wide receiver too. He possesses a ton of speed. Van Jefferson's an old vet. He had one good year, I think, in 2019, 2020, maybe something like that. He had one big year with like 800-ish yards, 5-6 touchdowns. But we know we're getting out of him too. He kind of drops the ball. He's an average. He's just a little bit below average of receiver. To keep it short and sweet here, I'm not super confident with the group at all. But I expect a huge, huge year for George Pickens.
If you had to make me take a choice of any group that we have on this entire team of where I feel the least comfortable, this is clearly the group. I'm not sold George Pickens is a number 1 because he's never shown it and because of the things that you just mentioned.
Correct.
So
Correct.
All that you're talking about with George Pickens is all based on projection. And I hate picking based on projection. Like, I want to see it. and not all of it's his fault, right? I mean, he's had terrible quarterback play since he's been here. So how much of it was the quarterback? How much of it is it him? Like, you're projecting everything about him being a number 1 receiver, and that just makes me uncomfortable to begin with. And then the number 2 spot, we talked about, like, on the last time we were together, I talked about Calvin Austin winning that number 2 job, but that is not a good situation to be in if Calvin Austin's your number 2 receiver, because exactly what you said, he is more of a gadget type guy, and he's not a guy who's proven he can be, this fantastic route runner, get separation, catch the ball away from the frame of his body, which was his big knock coming into the draft. He's not a guy you feel comfortable with if he does win it. And like you said, Van Jefferson has not exactly lit the world on fire. He had one good season with Matthew Stafford. He was their number 3 though that year. He was not the number 2 on that team. He just got a lot of attention because of what the guys around him were drawing double teams and things of that nature. So he really was a benefit of the team around him. And let's be honest, Matthew Stafford is a fantastic quarterback. That guy's probably going to the Hall of Fame.
I think he was with Goff the year he had a huge year. I think that was Goff's last year with the team.
Okay, yep. You might be. Yeah, I think you're right. Okay.
But Goff's still proven to be a heck of a player too. Like, let's be perfectly clear. I mean, Goff's proven to be a really good player too. But yeah, I mean, I am very much projecting kind of like the numbers, what I'd like to see from Pickens. But exactly like I named, I'll go over one more time. He needs to refine his route running. He needs to expand his route tree by a significant number, and he needs to relax with the mental stuff, the stupid mental mistakes, like against Tennessee last year. It just keeps coming to me all the time. When he had like 6 yards of space to work with in the corner of the end zone, somehow Kenny Pickett threw him a perfect ball, and he didn't get a second foot in. It's like, come on, man! Like these are the
Right.
little things that like you're a pro. Like that needs to be 6 points every time. And that's,
Right.
it's the little things with Pickens, like the blow ups on the sideline, which it's warranted. We've seen his quarterback rooms the last 2 years.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of projection with Pickens with the whole wide receiver room. And that's why I agree with you. It is by far the most weary position on this roster without question.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Roman Wilson does develop. He's a rookie, so he's going to go through the bumps and bruises here early on in camp. But I'm interested to see what he looks like in the preseason. And I hope Tomlin doesn't like put him in with the twos to do this like confidence building thing. I want to see him go against the ones. Like I want to see what he looks like against the ones because that's going to tell you a lot about what he'll look like week one, right? Like I said, I want to see him going against the ones. He's an interesting one, and I think he's going to do fine. I think he'll be a everything you want out of a wide receiver three in that slot role. So that'll be
Yeah, I
interesting.
agree. I'd like to see it be nothing but him and Pickens going against Joey Porter Jr. every time. 100%.
100%. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yep.
So here's one that we this one could easily be turned into its own episode, but the quarterback room. So I know we've hit on this a little bit. The quarterbacks between Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, who's going to win this job? Is it even a battle? Like, um, what are you thinking? Obviously we're starting to see some workout videos coming out with Russ Wilson today. What do you think about this position?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's 100% Russell Wilson's job as we speak right now. I know me and you have talked about it on Twitter multiple times here. You know, for Justin Fields to get the week one start, he needs to literally gap Russell Wilson, like literally play double as good as Wilson is. And it's kind of on Wilson. It's kind of his job to lose. I
Hmm.
mean, he's really got to play really bad in the preseason, in mini camp, routes on air, whatever. He needs to do everything wrong to lose his job. Okay. I'm gonna stay with it here with Justin Fields. We needed a backup quarterback. We didn't give up anything to get him. We needed a backup quarterback that bad. You know, he's a freak athlete. We know what he can kind of do. Like there's been flashes. Obviously he significantly improved the second DJ Moore was on the roster. But let's be perfectly clear. DJ Moore is a lot better than George Pickens, and everybody wants to complain about his receiving cores in Chicago. He doesn't have a very good one in Pittsburgh now, right? He's got a better offensive line. He's got a way better group of running backs, probably a better defense, definitely a better head coach. But he doesn't have receivers now either. He's
No.
still doesn't have a good receiving core. So that's really not an excuse that we can make anymore. Right now, it's for him. If you want to win that job, you literally gap Wilson. You do everything better than Wilson and then some. So that's my position on it. I've been very clear about it both here and on Twitter, last episode, etc. It's Russell Wilson's job, and it's Russell Wilson's job to lose. So
I agree. I honestly don't expect him to lose it at least early on.
no,
Um, at some point in the season, if things aren't going well for the team, I could see them making a switch to Fields to see what they have,
yeah,
and start looking long term. But I don't
yeah,
expect Russell to play bad enough to lose this job outright. And I think that Tomlin loves a sure thing, and he thinks Russell Wilson's a sure thing. This is a guy who, if you look at his pedigree, he was on a Hall of Fame track at one point, and I don't know if Denver threw that off for a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people who are going to make the argument that Denver kind of showed that maybe he was more of a system quarterback in in Seattle. I hate that term, but I think that's going to get thrown around a little bit because, of course, the Denver year, the first year was just awful. I mean, it was just atrocious. But last year, we talked about this last episode. I look at him more of a guy later in his career where he's still a finisher. he protects the ball. That's what Tomlin loves. He does not want turnovers, and he does protect the ball. He just takes a ton of sacks. And I think Tomlin will live with the sacks as long as there's not interceptions and fumbles coming along with those sacks. So, that's part of where Justin is going to have a hard time with Mike Tomlin because he puts the ball on the ground. He doesn't just take sacks; he drops the ball a lot. A lot of his turnovers came off fumbles. It wasn't even necessarily just the interceptions, but Russ had a much better TD to interception ratio than Justin Fields did. So it's going to be a lot, I think, before Justin can take Russell's job, and it may happen through the season. I'd love to see Justin play in this
Oh yeah.
organization, to be perfectly honest with you.
Oh yeah.
Aside from the fan side of things,
Well, he'd be so fun. He'd be really fun.
Yeah, he's electric. I mean, he's just an electric athlete.
Yeah.
He's 25 years old. Could he still be a franchise quarterback? He would have to prove a lot to say that he can. But I think that's kind of where you're at with this quarterback battle. Is it's Russell Wilson's to lose, and I don't see him letting go of the reins very easily. So before we dive into the running back room, so we talked about the new coaching staff. So what improvements do you think we should expect from Arthur Smith in this offense? I mean, obviously he's getting nowhere to go, but Matt Canada did not leave us with a lot of expectations. But what do you think Arthur Smith does for this franchise?
Well, yeah, I mean, the bar is in hell. The bar is about as low as it could possibly go because we had Canada and Fiechner back to back, and they were both egregious, right? So the bar's in hell. With Art Smith, I can expect a few things. The quarterback is not going to be expected much. I mean, in his entire career as an OC, his quarterbacks have not expected much. He was really good with Ryan Tannehill in 2019 and 2020 with the Titans. Those are Ryan Tannehill's two best years of his career, undisputed. He wasn't very good with Desmond Ritter as a head coach, but head coach and offensive coordinator is a completely different ballgame. People are going to knock on his touches with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. I made a post about it a long time ago. Combined, those two had very similar numbers to Najee and Warren. And I'm pretty sure Bijan only had like less than a quarter less touches than Najee. I think he had maybe under 25 less touches than Najee had last year with the Steelers. So that's kind of a fallacy there. But yeah, I can expect Freiermuth to have a good year. I can expect not a lot of pressure to be put on Russ, but I really do think that when Russ needs to do something, he can. He's proven that in his however many years. He was with Seattle for 10 seasons, 2 in Denver. Last year, like you said, he's a finisher. He's great in the red zone. Good. Najee and Warren can get us down the field. I don't worry about that by any means. We've seen it like the entire second half of last year. We were an incredible rushing team. So they can get us down the field. It's just a matter of can Russell Wilson finish. So my 3 biggest things for Arthur Smith that I expect to see improved: run game, the gel of the offensive line, and then I guess the pressure on the quarterbacks can be significantly decreased this year with him. I think that, like I said, Russ isn't going to be asked to do too much. I mean, obviously, we know what he's capable of, so when he needs to do it, I think he can. It's just a matter of holding on to the rock and minimizing the amount of sacks we've been taking. I mean, Russ and Fields both like to get out of the pocket. They both love to take sacks. For me, that's by far the most infuriating thing of a quarterback is taking stupid sacks and running out of the pocket when you shouldn't be. As long as we can keep that at a minimum, have Najee and Jalen do the groundwork, So
yeah,
that's just me.
I think so far too, you've heard a lot of conversation positively from the players talking about his communication and how he's taking feedback from other coaches, which are reports that we heard negatively towards Canada as well. Like he wasn't taking feedback from other coaches and implementing things that other coaches were seeing and implementing things that players were asking for. So it seems like Arthur Smith's very adaptable. in the way that he takes his approach, and he seems to have more control, I would say, of or more even more of like a demand. Like he has a certain level of expectations that he places on the players to carry themselves in a certain way, which I think is good because we've clearly seen that there's been some attitude issues here in the last couple seasons. So aside from the things that you brought up, I think those are things that I found very interesting. And Tomlin, I would not describe as a disciplinarian, but it seems that Arthur Smith is, and we needed that. We needed a guy in the room who can kind of be like the adult in the room, like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I thought those were things that'd be intriguing, and I like the conversation you had about the effect he had on Ryan Tannehill, because Ryan Tannehill was kind of like left for dead after Miami, right? And Arthur Smith kind of revived his career.
Yeah.
So it makes me think, what could he do for Russell Wilson? Like
Yeah, I mean,
everybody,
he put Ryan Tannehill in the Pro Bowl. Are you kidding me? Like, just imagine if Russ is Russ that we've seen prior. If he's like 75% of Seattle Russ, and Arthur Smith put Ryan Tannehill in the Pro Bowl, Russ will be perfect. He'll be great. Like, I just need 75% of prime Russ with Arthur Smith. And I mean, if they can have the relationship that Smith and Tannehill clearly had, which was really good, I mean, it's still like to this day when we sign him, I'm like, yeah, his offense, it's kind of 90s style. It's not current, but the dude put Ryan Tannehill in the Pro Bowl, man. That's got to say
yeah,
something. But yeah, I mean, that's all I got. And, Derrick Henry's two best years were with Arthur Smith. I think Najee is a very similar back to Derrick Henry. Maybe Derrick Henry's got that long speed that Najee kind of lacks. But in regards
mm,
to being absolute bruisers, breaking tackles, disgusting highlight reel stiff arms, I mean, they're very similar in that fashion, both Bama boys anyway. So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for Najee's year, which we'll get into Najee in a second here.
yeah. So what do you think are realistic expectations? So how much do you think he affects like the points per game? We obviously were, I think, bottom four in the league in points scored last year. Um, Combination of reasons why, was play calling, it was the play design, it was Kenny Pickett didn't seem to ever get the ball to the end zone. Like, there's a number of combinations as to why that didn't happen, but now you've got a guy who is a finisher in Russell Wilson. You have a guy in Arthur Smith who designs a real offense. This is an actual NFL offense that we get to watch this year. So what do you think it does for the points per game? What do you want to make a prediction on our points per game totals this year?
Yeah, I mean, so the last 2 years we're looking at 27th in points per game last year, and then I think 25th the year prior. 2021 we still had the corpse of Ben, so I mean, it's still like you still do have Ben Roethlisberger. I think we were middle of the pack in 2021, like ballpark of 16 to 18. But yeah, I mean, last year we were 27th in points per game. That's rock bottom. I mean, right? I mean, realistically, I liked what you said on the last episode. I think 21 to 23 is very fair. I think last year, obviously we were 27th. Weren't we like 18 points something
Yeah.
points a game? Yeah, I mean, I think 23-ish, 22, 23 is probably where I'm thinking. If I'm an over under better, I'm going 22 and a half is my line there. Yards a game. I know rush yards a game last year we were kind of middle of the pack. 2021 we were really far down, like 24, 25. I forget where exactly we were in 2022. I expect us to be in the top 10 in rushing per game because that's an Arthur Smith offense.
Yep.
Passing, to be honest, man, I can't make a prediction on passing yet because I don't know how good Roman Wilson is. I don't know how good Calvin Austin is, and I really don't know if Pat Freiermuth is going to be able to be healthy all 17 games. So,
Mm,
in regards to the two basic things on our offense, points per game and then rushing, which is going to be the 60% of the offense, that's where I think we'll probably be about.
yeah, I agree with you. If we're not in the top 10 in rushing this year, then something
I'll
went
be furious.
drastically wrong. Like
Yeah,
drastically wrong. There were a
that's a
lot of things
failure.
that didn't work out if we're not in the top 10. And I, like you said, I mentioned that line of I think we're somewhere in that 22 point range as well. Just
Yeah.
you're going to make a jump. It is 22 going to end us up being in the top half of the league? Probably not. But considering where we were, it's an improvement. And I don't know that, like you said, we don't have the wide receiver room to probably push that needle up towards 24 points a game. Like you're going to need something to happen there before you're going to move that needle very far. So I think overall, though, I'm happy with the Arthur Smith hire. For the roster that we have, I think he's a good fit. And I'm interested to see what he implements. And there's going to be one more thing that I think is going to happen more this year that has not really been talked about a lot. I think we're going to see
Play
Connor
action.
Hayward play in the H back role, and yes, the play action fake is going to become a lot more prevalent. So,
yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that we both forgot to mention somehow. Is that Russell Wilson's a really good play action quarterback, and he's proven to be. Yeah, I mean, 22 points will get you in about 12 to 14 range in the league in regards to scoring. I'm cool with that, man. That's a huge improvement from the last 3 years now.
yeah.
Well, probably since 2018, man. I mean, it's been a long time since we've been in that top half of the league with points.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. I mean, play action is going to be a huge part of our game this year, and I'm a huge play action fan. That's why I love Kirk Cousins so much. That's why I like our Art Smith offenses as much as I do. That's why I like Russell Wilson. I mean, but yeah, I mean that's really
Yeah. So let's talk about why that play action is going to work. We got the two workhorses in the backfield, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. And man, if this isn't the topic of conversation every time you log in to anything where people are talking about sports. Now, there's a lot of people who are in a realistic debate about who deserves a contract. Should we pay Najee Harris? Should we pay Jalen Warren after the season? Who's the better actual player? So, what is your stance on just looking at who's the better player right now this year? Who would be your lead guy?
that guy. That guy. Najee's a better player. I mean, let's be perfectly clear. Jalen Warren's stats are so beyond inflated. A lot of his carries will come from boxes that aren't stacked, obvious passing situations. The amount of times the last 2 years we've gotten Jalen Warren on 2nd and 8 draw plays or 3rd and 15 draw plays just to eat up some yards for better punt position. Whatever. No, it's a terrible debate. Najee Harris is the better player, okay? 2021, we saw exactly what Najee can do. The guy played all 17 games with over 350 touches. He hasn't missed a single game in his whole career. He is an absolute bell cow. He is Derrick Henry 2.0. Has Derrick Henry worked out well in the league? I'll ask you, Trent. Has he, yes or no?
Oh, Derrick Henry's worked out pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? Over 2,000 yards in a season with Arthur Smith, actually, funny enough. Yeah, no, I can't. I hate this debate. I get it. The straight line speed or the home run speed or whatever the hell these kids nowadays want to talk about. Great, cool, but I don't think Jalen Warren can handle 350 touches a season. Probably couldn't even handle 300. Could he even handle 250? I mean, he gets 70% of Najee's touches. Sure, he has more yards per carry. He did his best effort to fumble away that Baltimore Week 18 game, while Najee Harris just ate up on one of the better run defenses in the league. He did that not once but twice.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, man. I can't stand the argument. I know we in the itinerary here, better in the short term, obviously Najee Harris because he's the bell cow. Better in the long term, I'm still taking Najee, man. He didn't miss any games in Bama. He hasn't missed any games yet. So who's to say he's not durable enough to be a 7-8 year pro? Who's to say?
Yeah, there's some validity to that argument there for sure. This is why I've put this segment in the middle of this whole thing, is because this is one that I think we're going to disagree on a little bit. Now, I actually like Najee Harris a lot. I was one of the few people who really liked the pick because there's
I
the
loved it.
whole,
Oh, I was
you
thrilled.
can't take
I
a
was
running
so
back in
thrilled.
the first round. Why can't you take a running back in the first round? If he's good enough to be a running back in the first round, you take him in the first round. I mean, that's just all there is to it. And
Right.
there's going to be some validity to saying that, he hasn't had the best offensive lines to play behind, blah, blah, blah. I'll say this. Jalen Warren ran behind the same offensive line last year, and I don't think the statistics say he was taking different reps than Najee did, because they had a pretty even workload between the two of them. There wasn't it was like 51-49, I think, touches between Jalen and Najee, and Najee had the
Really?
51%, and then Jalen had 49%. It got very close as the year went on. Um,
That's true.
and
Towards the end of the year, it got really close.
and I think that once Jalen started really busting out in the middle of that season, when it was really when Broderick Jones came into the lineup and the running game picked up, and he
Well, they both picked up when Broderick came in.
they did, and but Jalen started getting a lot of recognition nationally, and I think you saw some teams start to adjust the way that they were going to him. Now, the thing that he really, in my opinion, separates him from Najee, he is a better pass protector and he's better out of the backfield. I mean, and I wish I could remember the game that it was, but that game he caught a swing pass out to the right, and he had like 8 yards to go, and there's three defenders in front of him, and that dude somehow wiggles his way through all three of those dudes to get a first down. Like, Najee's not making that play. Like, Najee's going to try to run through those guys, but I'm not sure he's going to get through there. There's certain. It's what makes the two of them. The fact this is an argument is what makes this, in my opinion, one of the best backfields in football, because it's so close. I mean,
Just
you can
can't figure out who's
argue
better.
one way or the other. I think personally, I think Jalen Warren's the better running back. I think he's a little bigger than people think. Like, he is very short, but he has a compact, build to him. Is he 215? I think he's about 215 pounds, and he's like 5'8".
I think he's
Um,
5'8", 215, 210, yeah.
Yeah, so I think he's a little bigger. Now, his knock from me is I have the same concern as you. I don't know if he could be a bell cow guy where, like that Baltimore game where you basically hand it off to Najee Harris 20 to 25 times and just say go win us a football game in the mud. Jalen's not going to do that. Jalen is not going to do
No.
that. Now, is Jalen going to be a home run threat like we saw him have the potential to have? Yeah, Najee doesn't have that in his game, but that's what makes this such a great dynamic backfield.
Well,
Like, I
let's
think
relax on that because Najee Harris led the AFC in 20-plus yard carries. He was tied for fourth in the league. I mean, like
it wasn't
that's
just
I think
speed. It was the Cincinnati game dragging 15 guys downfield. I think they had the trainer like on top of that pile. They were throwing anything they could at him in that one.
I mean, sure, but still, like that. I think that's a fallacy as well because Najee Harris was literally the best in our conference with plays of 20-plus yards. So, I mean, maybe he won't break a 74-yarder like Warren did, but he can break it for 15, 20 any given minute.
Oh
I mean, it's
yeah, he
just a
can.
matter of and the problem is with Najee, we'll never see his peak because we gave him eighth grade offensive lines. I mean, if
Yep.
I went right to left, 2021, okay, you're looking at Dan Moore, Kevin Dotson, Kendrick Green, Trey Turner, and then Chuck Okorafor. 2022, okay, you're looking at Dan Moore. God, who was our left guard? Whoever was our left guard that year, Mason Cole, James Daniels, Chuck Okorafor. Dotson was our left guard that year. And then
Mm,
last year, I mean, last year was the same thing. I mean,
yeah.
it was an improvement last year, hence why his yards per carry went up, hence why he had more big runs, hence why, our rushing attack was better as a team. But I don't know.
I don't like the yard per carry argument that people try to make against Najee because of
It's
exactly what you're
terrible
saying. I mean, this
because
dude.
it's a miracle. It's a miracle he went for 3, let alone 4.
Yes, I know.
I
He
mean,
was. I mean, he only averaged 3.5 yards a carry. Yeah, but he was getting hit 3 yards in the backfield. That was basically 6.5 yards after contact.
right,
I mean,
right, and
like, so.
yeah, and since coming into the league, Najee Harris is up top. I mean, top 3, like we were talking about Jordan Love. Top 3 in every statistical category that has to do with broken tackles, yards after contact, yards with contact, whatever the hell it might be. Najee
Yeah,
Harris is up there. He is a bruiser and a half,
he
and
is.
he's a bruiser and a half that plays 17 games a year, 3 years in a row, plus playoffs. I mean, he's played 36 out of 36 eligible games in his entire career in the pros. Everyone says, oh, only 1,000 yards. Who cares? Well, guess what? He's the only guy in the entire National Football League who's been for 1,000 yards the last 3 years. If it was so damn easy, why doesn't everybody just do it? No. Najee Harris did it because that's Najee Harris, because he's that good. You're telling me right now, I will tell you right now, and you can come back to this later in the year, and if we will, I'm sure, come back to this later in the year. If this offensive line can be a top 10 run blocking unit in the entire National Football League, Najee Harris will prove to be an absolute top 5 running back in pro football. No question. Easy. If this offensive line can be a top 10 unit run blocking wise, we will have a 1,500-yard rusher by far, by a margin. That's a fact.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I
I mean,
I was actually one of the people who was advocating to give Najee the 5th year option for a couple of
yes.
reasons. I mean, selfishly, I want to keep these two running backs together. I think they're a
Yeah.
dynamic duo. They fit so
Yeah.
well together. They both bring something different to the table, and it's just like it's like a match made in heaven with the two of these guys. And I'm 100% fine completely splitting carries 50-50 between the two because
50-50. Do it.
they've both proven they're effective in their own ways, and you're going to have games in the AFC North just like that Baltimore game last year where you need Najee Harris. And if you get rid of that guy and you say we can replace him with anybody, that game comes around and you're going to be sorry. So I have made the argument that I really think they should have picked up the 5th year option. I don't know if I believe them when they're talking about they're still in conversations with trying to work out a deal with him to keep him more long term. I don't know if I believe that. Um, I honestly kind of hope it's true,
I
but
pray.
Jalen Warren's also going to need a contract too. Now, if you're not going to pay a quarterback, I'm okay with paying two running backs because you're not going to pay them like wide receiver money, right? So is 6 million or 7 million that much really in the cap? I don't think it's that much money. I mean, you got Nate Herbig sitting on your bench with $7 and $8 million cap hit right now. Like, who cares if
Cole
you give
Holcomb
it to
with
a
an 8
running
million
back? He's
cap
not
hit.
even
Yeah.
playing. Like, he's not playing. So I hate that kind of an argument. Like, oh, you can't pay running backs. Well, you're not paying them that much anyway. The market's not there for them. So like, I think you can get Jalen Warren done on a cheaper contract right now. Because his contract's up after this season. But let me ask you this: if you only could pay one guy, and I think I know your answer based on what your arguments have been so far, who are you going to give a contract to?
I'm paying Najee Harris for that reason. I mean, like you said, there's going to be a lot of games in the very near future within, like, looking down the next 5 years down the line. Okay. These teams aren't getting worse. They're all getting better. Cleveland, Baltimore, Cincy. They're all getting better. We need to do the same. So when we have games like that in Baltimore, guess what? We're in the Midwest, man. We have shit weather.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be perfectly clear. I mean, when you get games like that, Jalen Warren is not running the ball 30 times for 130 yards and scoring twice. That's never going to happen with Jalen Warren. That will happen with Najee Harris twice on Sunday. No
Yeah.
pun intended. But
Yeah.
no, I'm paying Najee Harris. I think they really messed up not picking up that option because you just saw Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre Stevenson gets a 4-year, $36 million deal. Really? Like,
Yeah.
come on. So now they're in a kind of same as the Cam thing. Now they're backed into a wall. Do we kind of have to pay Najee Harris that kind of money because a guy way worse than him got that kind of money? I would have just been cool with, the second the offseason started this year, you extend him 2-3 years for like 6-7 million a year. Like, I would have been cool with 3 years, 21 mil, 2 years, 15
Yeah.
mil, whatever. But now you're kind of backed into a wall. If you really are serious about extending him, you're sitting there saying, okay, well, we have to beat 9 million a year.
Yeah. That
So
changes things.
that really did
Would you
change things with
would you pay both?
100%. I love what you said. It's the selfish aspect of me saying, dude, I want both of these guys on my team for another 3-4 years. Like, the splitting carries, both of them. It's a mutual relationship. It helps them both play 17 games a year because they're
Yep.
splitting carries. Let's be honest. Would Najee have played 17 games a year if he got 350 plus like he did in 2021? No, that's not possible. But with both of them splitting carries, I like that 51-49, that 55-45 kind of percentage based thing. That's how you keep them healthy all season. So yeah, keep them both, extend them both another 2 years. If your quarterbacks are worth a combined total of what, 6.7 million, I think this year. Yeah,
Yeah.
pay them both. I mean, that
Yeah.
shouldn't be a question.
And we don't know what's going to happen with the quarterback situation because everybody's on a 1 year deal basically right now, and if they feel like they're going to pay Russ, then I can see the argument that you can't pay both
Please
running
don't.
backs because
Please don't pay Russ.
I don't want that to happen either. But like,
Please
I'm
don't
just
pay
trying to
Russ.
think about other options why the team wouldn't do it. But if both these quarterbacks flame out, then you're probably going to look to the draft either this year or next year. Anyway, you might do another stopgap guy who's going to be cheap. I don't know, Jacoby Brissett type player, or I know Minshew won't be available next year, but like you're going to look at guys like that that aren't going to have a hefty price tag where you can still pay both running backs. But if you're going to pay a guy, either Justin Fields or Russell Wilson, then it gets to, can you afford to pay both guys? And that's
Correct.
where things are going to get quite interesting. Omar Khan's got his he's got his work cut out for him with these contracts that are coming due. I mean, you got Pickens will be coming in a couple years. You got Fryermuth needs to be extended this year. Really, you're going to have Cam's decision to be made. You're going to have a number of guys. Daniels. I mean, they're basically telling him to walk. So, and it's just there's a lot. TJ. TJ, is he going to get a new contract? Minka soon
Yeah,
after.
he will.
Like, there is a lot of interesting contract scenarios coming up with this team.
Well, and that's one thing that like we talked about Omar Khan last episode, how wonderful he's done in the draft. Dude, like he's really putting himself in a sticky spot here with all the contracts he's got to either extend, pick up, drop, cut, etc. I mean, these are significant guys. I mean, should Cole Holcomb still be on the roster for 7 million cap hit? God no. Should Nick Herbig for whatever the hell
No,
he's making? No. Right? You're prioritizing these
Nate
backup.
Herbig, right? You're talking about Nate.
Did I say Nick on accident?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, Nate Herbig, the guard center guy.
yes,
Is he worth 6'7"? No. So you're paying your middle linebacker 4, and then your center slash guard 2/3. You know, about what 13, 14 combined, and you're not looking to either extend and or pay your 2 running backs who have been your whole offense. That's just silly. So yeah, I mean Omar Khan, he's done a wonderful job drafting. He's got his work cut out for him these next couple years in regards to contracts and extensions and free agency and the market and everything like that. So I'd love to play out this year. And then, my last thing for that, I want one of two things to happen. Either Fields plays really good and we can extend him, or they both suck and we draft in the top 10. Because if Russ plays average this year and Fields doesn't touch the field, well, you don't want to pay Russ, but you also don't want to let Fields go because you didn't see him in action.
yep,
That'd be a really awkward situation. If that'd be the worst case. If Russ does play average, Fields doesn't touch the field, and you're just like, well, Russ was okay. He got us to 10 wins. Fields didn't
yeah.
play. So I
We
think
end
it's
up
better
we end up
off.
picking in the 20s again.
Exactly. Right. So we're better off either they both suck or Fields balls out. One of the two needs to happen. It's got to happen. But I
Yep,
don't know. What do you think about that?
I agree. I mean, I really want the end of this thing to be that Justin Fields gets on the field earlier than later on because I don't want him going through the gauntlet of the schedule, which we know the schedule does have, you know, all of the division games backloaded and a lot of the really difficult, challenging
Oh yeah,
teams are backloaded.
Philly, Kansas City, yeah, the whole gauntlet.
Let's not throw him into the middle of that mix. Let's let him get into this
No,
offense earlier in the season. If Russ is not playing fantastic and there is any chance that Justin's right there behind him, put him on the field and just see what you got and live with what you get. Like that's how I feel about it personally because I don't want to give another contract to a 35-year-old quarterback. Like
no, you don't.
I don't want to
Like we did
relive
with
the
Ben. Like we did with
mediocre
Ben.
end of the career. Like we saw what that looked like, and I think, and I made this point when I did the individual quarterback breakdowns. Russell Wilson, when the physical tools start going downhill, he is completely done. He is too short to see over the offensive line. He needs to be able to move around to find the windows to throw into. And when that running ability starts going down, dude is done. Like, and that can happen very quickly for a 35-year-old quarterback. So, I mean, so far he looks good, and everybody's talking about he looks like he's moving around, he's doing great. Like, but Father Time is undefeated. Like, and I really want to see a 25-year-old Justin Fields and the dynamic play that he can bring to the table. I personally am okay living with the mistakes because of just he can do things that no one else on the field is going to be able to do. I would be okay with that. Like if he's as long as he's keeping the positives outweighing the negatives, like I'm fine. I'll live with the mistakes. That's just how I feel about it.
No, I'm completely with you, and I think it, pertaining back to our conversation, if or to what you said, really, if it's week 4 and we're like 1-3, or if it's like week 10 and we're like 3-7 or 3-6 or whatnot, and Russ isn't playing very well, but Fields isn't far behind, bro, just throw Fields in and see what he can do. Because like the time's ticking on both of them. Father Time's about to hit Russ, and like you said, Father Time's undefeated. And then Fields was drafted the same year as Najee. So either you got like 1 year to figure out if you extend him, give him a new contract, or let him go. So the clock's ticking for both of our quarterbacks right now. So I hate to be the pessimistic guy, but let them both suck. Get us in the top 10 next year. They both suck. Top 10 next year. All good by me. Like, I hate to be pessimistic. I know we have a win now defense. I know
Yeah.
TJ's not getting any younger. I know Najee is not getting, Minka, blah, 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 blah. Cam. We just, it's so ugly. It's so awkward. It's not even ugly. It's just awkward with the quarterbacks. You got Father Time with one guy, and you got a guy who's 25, has all the athletic traits in the world, but just doesn't really have it. It's just, ugh.
Yeah. Well, the only way we're going to sort that out is in training camp and in the preseason. So let's get to our last topic of the evening here. So, what are you excited for in Latrobe? Because it's coming, and it's I think July 24th is when they hit the training camp. What are you
Yeah.
looking for?
Well, I'm looking for 3 things. I'm looking for the correct offensive line to be gelled in day 1. Broderick and Fountain on the outside, Frazier on the inside, and then obviously you got the 2 guards, Malo and Daniels. So that's number 1. I'm looking for that number 1, that week 1 lineup to be there, day 1 of training camp. Quit the BS, quit the Tomlinisms, put it all together, put them together, and I want them to look good. I want them to perform well, to gel well, to have like some type of chemistry going early. So that's number 1. Number 2, I really want to see what's going on with this DB unit. In regards to, Minka Fitz playing his natural spot with Deshaun Elliott really being that Edmonds type. Or, Peasy Jr. going into a crucial second year for him, with Dante Jackson on the outside, who's an immediate upgrade over Levi Wallace and Patrick Peterson. And then really, pertaining to last week, what you said with, Josiah Scott and Beanie Bishop, those 2 slot guys, I want to see if we have a legitimate nickel corner for once. So that's definitely number 2. The whole secondary gelling together is number 2 for sure. And then number 3, obviously, I know it's a basic, obvious answer, but I want to see what Art Smith's got cooking for Pickens and Muth and Roman Wilson. For those 3 specifically, we know what we're getting from Najee and Warren. We're getting 2 stud backs with stud backs. But I really want to see what Arthur Smith's got cooking for, with the Pickens, the Freiermuth, the Wilsons, with how they connect well and how they gel with Russ. So that's my 3. O-line gelling, DB unit gelling, and then kind of those 3 big skill guys.
Yeah, positionally, I like that. I also want to see the backs versus backers drill that they run. Like I can't wait to see that. That's how Jalen kind of made the team, was the backs versus backer drill.
Sure, yeah.
So
I mean, granted, against Walmart linebackers, but still, I mean,
he made his name that way, so I like it.
He did. No.
It's exciting. So
it is.
excited to see some of that. Excited to see some of the highlights that come out of that. Who's really making plays? Are any of the football and short stuff going to carry over? Like the big talk about Beanie Bishop. Does he continue to produce? Does a guy like all the talk about Calvin Austin, is it warranted, or does he shrink back up once the pads get on and people start getting physical with him? Like I'm interested to see some of those storylines and how they play out. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. So. Totally agree. I really want to see that offensive line gelling together earlier rather than later. And I think that because of the amount of reps that you saw from Frazier and Fautanu in college, that they're in a different situation than Broderick Jones going
Sure,
into this
because Broderick was
series.
really raw. Yeah,
He was. So I'm hoping to see exactly what you're saying. If you know these are going to be your guys going into week one, like get them together sooner rather than later and let them gel together, because the offensive line does need to gel. It can't just be like we're going to figure this out and filter a guy in here and then filter a guy in there. Like they need to be playing together now.
ASAP,
So
like day one. Yeah, and pertaining to that, you said running backs, linebackers. Dude, are you kidding me? You know how fun it's gonna be, like Fountain versus TJ and Broderick and Highsmith, and then Frazier with Benton and Cam. Like that'll be fun too. That if I end up going this
yes,
year, I mean, I will for sure be eager to see the O line versus D line stuff. So that'll be another fun one.
trial by fire, baby. Throw him right in there. I like it.
Exactly. Yep. First drill. I want Fountain trying to block TJ for sure.
All right.
uh,
Well, hey, listen, I think we covered a lot of really good information today. I like the offensive breakdown, the positional breakdown, the
yeah.
Jalen versus Najee arguments, and I think we're both in agreement there that it's you can make an argument based on the statistics with either guy that you want to, but they're better off together.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they're
then
both incredible.
and I'm just ready for Latrobe. Like I'm ready for the pads to come on
Mm,
and to see
yeah.
who steps up and who shows out in Latrobe. So.
Yeah.
Colin, again, I appreciate you coming back on with me today.
Yeah.
For everybody watching, hope you like, subscribe, share, leave comments. I'm sure that we're going to get some controversial takes on this. So, again, man, I appreciate it, and I hope you have a good
Hey,
day.
thank you for having me, man. Have a wonderful day. All right.
All right, thank you.
Yep.